today 3rd July 2018 on a Tuesday night. We are gathering to practice meditation. So in a practice of meditation, first of all, the important part is to settle down yourself, having a comfortable position. So adjusting yourself to find a comfortable position and making a conscious decision that during this practice of meditation, try to remain still as long as you can. Simply is to learn our mind, that how much our mind suffers as we are remaining still. The purpose behind of it is simply to understand that every now and then, very moment when we try to stay still, our mind begins to notify some changes in our body occurring. In the meantime, with that, it proliferates into the pains and discomforts, simply to move around. So 24/7 days, this mind is a playing game with us, constantly moving from one to another, constantly changing one object to another. Very moment when we want this, and this mind will say this is not and need something else, and then we are feeding or we are responding as it wishes to be. So we are feeding 24/7 days a week, in a way non-stop. So in order to cultivate and understand or to train this unsettled mind, first of all we have to begin with the strict to this body movements that we are not going to move at all. But that doesn't mean that you can't move at all. Should it necessary and it's really important, and having a fear of any physical discomforts, then again we can change the position, or we can change the way we are and causing us a trouble or a suffering and pains. But having said that, that moment we need to be mindful before and during and after that we are going to move. So we have to be very conscious about this intention to move, and while moving we have a mindful awareness on that we are moving constantly, and rather than moving at once, moving slowly with it diligently, having full awareness as it moves, and until the end of the moving, and settling down and adjusting once more. And with this practice, what happens is we are taming this wild mind that constantly moving from one to another, constantly changing from one to next. And it's not the body moving, it's not the body reacts. Simply it's the mind that is telling us to move, because mind is the chief and it's the forerunner. And without the mind we will not be moving any parts of our body. So having tamed this unsettled mind, then we will be able to see that how much our mind settles down later on as we try to keep our body still. So this is also a form of another practice that we can develop to cultivate and enhance our practice. Because the practice of meditation is not just to gain the calmness and relaxation of the body and the mind, but to understand the true nature of this wild mind and the ability to tame it, so it will give us good results, and we will be able to tame this mind, and we will be able to use this mind for the greater benefit. Because our mind is constantly going into the sensual pleasure, entertaining our senses at all the time. With taking control of these mental activities and an understanding of it, help us to release and relief from it. So the first practice is to keep our body still, and then as our body remains still, then our mind needs somewhere to play with. So that's how we need a primary object, a place, a core where we can keep our mind establishing its mindfulness, keeping focus on it. A place that mind can play with. So the breath, which is with us at all the time, is a perfect subject for the mind to play with, and as a result, it's object of a meditation. So anything that is related to the breath, regarded as the very beneficial practice, a beneficial object of a practice. And again, it is not just a breath that we can use it as a primary object, but it is simply because with us at all the time, whether we realize it or not. It's constantly happening and with us. It is more conducive and helpful to practice in our day-to-day life, and every time, every moment, whenever we remember the practice, we will be able to practice it at that very moment without imagining or without thinking about it. So we will not be wasting our time the moment that we remember to practice meditation. We simply bring our attention to the breath, aware of it as it comes and as it goes, the nature of it, how it is conditioned in and out. In is conditioning to the out is conditioning to the in, and so forth. And how we will be able to realize these sensations and feelings. And what is the main reason that we can realize, or we are aware of those feelings and sensations? And as we are aware of the feelings and sensations, we will be able to understand the way mind works into the pleasant or unpleasant sensations, and the way we are attached to and engage with it, and which is again further form of a stress and distress. But once we have realized it completely, acknowledging it, it's in true nature, and be able to understand being there and being aware of it, and rather than pushing or pressing yourself to understand the reality, being compassionate and kind to yourself, just simply aware of it as it is, rather than pushing away and pushing it to know. So diligently practicing will give us a fruit, the greater fruit, not just the happiness in this life, but also happiness hereafter, and it also leads to the liberation, the ultimate happiness of Nibbana. So continue practicing with the help of the breath, simply bringing your attention to pay attention to the breath, knowing, seeing the way it is, and you may start off practicing knowing the breath, in-breath and out-breath. In the meantime, aware of a long or short breath, or if you're comfortable with this rising, falling of abdomen, then pay attention to it, rising, falling as it is happening, or simply aware of a whole the body process the way it is, aware of this mind and the body, the way it is working, the way it is conditioned, and knowing the feelings and sensations the way it is, conditioning ourselves to engage, and how much we are attached to it, and how much we are cultivating on it or proliferating on it, or simply being aware and let it be and let it go. And with that we will be able to understand the mental qualities and mental components. So with this we will be able to understand things as they truly are and let it be. So during the practice, I would like to invite you to be aware of the breath diligently, persistently, as it comes and as it goes, rather than any interference with it or any whatever other sensations or feelings that arises, rather than having any comments or any discussions on those. Simply aware of it as it happens, as it takes place, and let it be. So with this reflection, continue practicing until you hear the gong.